Okay, let's do a bit of tweaking on these chords here. They're driving me a bit crazy listening to them, so let's make them a little bit tougher sounding and a little more current, shall we? We're probably going to end up layering these, and we're going to use one of my absolute favorite new features in Logic X, and that is the summing track stacks. So first of all, let's get the synth open. And I'm just going to solo this. Right, super wimpy at the moment. So let's see if we can adjust that to make it a little thicker sounding. Yeah, I was going to throw on some of this sine here, but it just kind of just sounds like you're just adding a sine. I want to add a bit more meat to the whole thing. Yeah, you can add some filter frequency modulation, which sometimes works. Gets it a bit fizzy. Okay, what we're going to do now is we are going to right click this and we are going to say create track stack. And I'm going to create a summing stack. And if you want to know the difference, the summing stack is one that is the multi-purpose track stack that mixes its subtracks and can be saved as a patch. You can also record and playback MIDI or remote control recording. So basically, it's like grouping your tracks together and having one final output where you can layer effects that everything is processed through, as opposed to the boring folder stack. We want the summing stack. It'll all make sense in a second. All right, so now we have this sum 5, and you can see here that chords is inside of sum 5. Now, if you go over to the mixer, let's flick over to our mixer page. Press 3, there we go. And now we have sum 5 here. Sum 5 is an aux channel that is automatically been set up with bus 1. It's also got a compressor and a channel EQ that's been magically put on it because that's the default that comes with Logic. And the chords has been automatically sent out to bus 1. Okay, so it's going out bus 1 and then in here. So flip back to this view. What I can do now is I can go and I can just press Command D to duplicate the chord track. Now you see we have instrument 6, which is also inside of sum 5. I'm going to name this to our chord stack just so it's a little more relevant. And now you can see here we have this chord stack and we have 2 instruments inside of it. Here's chords and instrument 6, both going to bus 1. And since I duplicated it, it's got the same parameters. Now, the really cool thing is that I can take this MIDI, I can drag it up, and I can drag it onto this chord stack here. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to take this MIDI and it's going to feed it to both of these guys. So no longer do you have to have 5, 6 synths with 5 or 6 different copies of all the MIDI, or, doing aliases like this. You can have one nice clean MIDI file that's playing both of these synths. Right? Awesome. So let's take the second synth and might as well just flick through some presets and see what sounds fat. So we'll take some leads. Basic dance lead. tweak a little bit of the settings here. I like that, but I don't like actually being able to hear it. So I just kind of want it subtly there. Now, one of the cool things about track stacks is that a lot of the times you don't want the exact same MIDI playing on these two channels. And that's where the wonders of the MIDI effects come in, because I can now take this MIDI effect, I can put the transposer on, and I can have this synth playing an octave up. So what's happening now is that it's taking the MIDI from the chord stack, feeds it to the chords, great, plays the chords, feeds it to the basic dance lead. Oh, there's a transposer on there, so it goes through the transposer and then hits the retro synth. And now it's pitched up an octave. Right? Super cool. And not only that, but you can define a scale. So if I don't want certain notes to play, I can just click them off like this. See, and it makes things sound horrible. It does come in handy. We'll probably play with that later. But for now, I'll just leave it so all the notes pass through and it's just pitching up. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new channel again, software instrument, and I'm going to put that there. I'm going to leave this muted for now, and I'm going to go into our chords, and I'm going to get rid of these notes because these are going to be offloaded somewhere else to play some fills. But for now, if I just use my command and arrow keys here, if I go command left, it zooms out, command right, I zoom in. Yep, gone. Blump, blump. Okay. Now, what I would like to happen is I would like to have vibrato fade in at the end of these chords, like I had talked about earlier when adjusting the mod wheel. Right? So let's do a little bit of automation here. And I can, do we want to do the wheel? Yeah. Okay, we'll leave that on wheel. So what we can do is double click this to get it open. And see, I'll just go to, there we go, my MIDI window. And it's not selected. Go back there, click it, the window, there we go. Okay, press Z to get everything in focus. And then I can open up this guy here. Now I can go, I can select something that I want to automate. So let's get the modulation wheel. So by default, there's nothing in here. If I hold down my command key, I get the pencil, which is my alternate tool. And then at the end of these, I can draw in a little bit of modulation. So I can go like that. And probably have it starting off at 0. And then, of course, it has to go back down. And then we do it all over again. All right, so that's not as much as I wanted. So we'll go in and I will open up retro synth again. And yeah, so I want to have the wheel go bananas with it. Vibrato. Something like that. So we flick back to the MIDI and yeah, got to remember to select that MIDI region. There we go. Actually, flick back here and you can see now that there is a little bit of automation in there. And you can see the mod wheel automation. However, you can't actually get it to show up in this view. The only way you can get it to show up is, I believe, in the hyper editor, which I don't use often, and this view now. So we'll open it up again. In fact, I like having that there so much, I'm going to add that to my screen set. So in order to make a change to the screen set, you unlock it, lock it again, and now when I flick back, it's there. So let's take the pen tool again. I'm just going to go draw it in a little bit more like that. And maybe go bananas up at the top there. And then we'll have it end there and go back down to 0. Whoops, go back down to 0 right away. Now there are options to snap the modulation as well, but I'm leaving it off because we don't really need it snapped right now. And now I've lost the clip again. It might just be easier to do it in here. Even though it's a wee bit cramped, you still get the gist. And now we can have our tools here. We can do the automation curve tool. We can just grab that and come on. Also, just as a side note, I'll just adjust this here. You can also get the automation curve tool by pressing Shift Control, so you don't have to go into your menu and drag it out of there. Go to you, automation curve tool, and then just drag it down. Now, what we'd like to do is copy that. Let me go back to my pointer tool. I'll drag this. And if I hold down the Alt or Option, I can copy them. That. And like that. That. And done. Now, unfortunately, there was a little technical error for the last little bit of the video, and something happened where it didn't end up recording the audio. So I am going to do a little bit of a recap. I had made some changes. Instead of me doing them all over again, I will just recap what has changed. Not a whole lot, which is good. So what I ended up doing was, after putting in this automation for the modulation, if you will remember, where is it? Right there. Okay, after doing these things, I went and opened up the MIDI and I added another note in these chords. So you can see instead of the 3-note chords, they're now 4 notes, and that actually took a little too long to do, so it's probably good that you missed it. And then now the chords also have some effects on the master. I'll go through them one by one. They're nothing too much, but they all add a little bit to the final sound. And yes, that is a trumpet sound. I also loaded up an EXS with a weird trumpet sound, just because I wanted a little bit of mids to come in. So the trumpet is EQ'd like this, just so it's bringing in a little bit of the mid. And then it's got a weird flanger on it just to add some movement to it. So you can't really tell it's a trumpet in the mix, and it's really quiet, but it did add a bit of something. So on the chord stack, first of all, I added some distortion. So I'm just going to loop up this first bar here so you can hear the difference with the effects. Okay, so that's with it. I cranked the tone up all the way, otherwise it sounds a bit muffled, so I want it up all the way. and just 2 dB. Then after that, I just put a compressor on that's just taking a little bit off the top. And it's got a long attack, so it gives that extra bit of a transient on the front of it. Then I added a channel EQ, which is boosting the highs a little bit, rolling off the extreme highs and the extreme lows. Right? Then a little bit of reverb. I chose a small studio reverb. I didn't want anything too big because what I really would like is after the chords are done, I want it to be silent. So whatever else comes after it comes in right away without any of the tail from the chords. And the way I went around doing that is I used a noise gate after the reverb. So the noise gate is set up like so. So it's a very, very fast release and attack time. And as soon as the chords are done, it falls below the threshold. The sound falls below the threshold and cuts it off. So I still have the reverb, which is working for while the sound is playing. But then, of course, it gets cut off by the gate. And then finally, I added another compressor, but this one is sidechained to our sidechain bus. And all together, okay, that's what it sounds like. And you can hear I did a little there where it just kind of resolves down. I thought that sounded nice. We may leave that in there. We may not. And I believe that is it. And you are now caught up to where I was at the end of the video. So let's end this one here. And we're going to move on to the next video where there will be more fun in store.